morning, everybody. I toast to you and all you do. Excuse me. I hope you're having a fantastic morning. So, Lammas, Lughnasadh, Lughnasadh, the early harvest, is coming up. It has many names. If you have not already seen my video on the energy and the magic, go ahead and check that out. I would say check out the link, but you know me. I don't edit my videos. I just post them. Otherwise, they would never go up. So, check it out. I'm sure it's on your recommendations, or go to my channel and it'll be right next to this one because they'll be uploaded next to each other. So, anyways, the early harvest is one of those holidays that is celebrated all around the world because it is shifting of the energy. Even if you're in the southern hemisphere and right now you're celebrating wintertime, this is a time for midwinter. And again, it's a candle mass. So we're lighting candles and we're really honoring that solar energy, either as now in the harvest, we're honoring it as it is at its height, and we are saying thank you, and we're lighting our candles to say, yes, we appreciate that, and we love this energy, and we want to bring it into our home so that we can keep it through the dark times. Or if you're on Imbolc, this is a time when, or midwinter, this is a time when we are lighting candles to call back to that energy and say, hey, come back to me, because we're honoring that solar energy. So all around the world, this is a time to honor the solar energy. Here in the northern hemisphere where we have the harvest, this is when we're harvesting. And so cultures all around the northern hemisphere are going to in some way honor that harvest. The grain harvest, the barley, wheat, whatever harvest, wine, grapes, those kind of things. So in this video, we're going to talk about the myths and traditions from all around the world. Like I said, if you're looking for magic and correspondence, check out the other video. And here we go. I say that in those other videos that I make because it's the transition statement. I know when I'm editing those that's where I stop. Lammas, to call it that one, is Anglo-Saxon for loaf mass. So this is celebrated on August 1st. It is the festival of the wheat harvest. This is when the first loaves of bread were made, and then they were placed in the fields to given as a thank you. They were also given to your neighbors and to your kin and brought around the community, again, as a way to say thank you. Sometimes you would make charms out of these loaves of bread, and they would then be blessed. You would take one loaf and you would break it into many pieces and give that out to many people as a sign of the community, that breaking bread. This is where that comes from, is this loaf mass or lammas. This is also written in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles that the first day of August is the Feast of First Fruits. So just like here in the United States or at my longitude, whatever, we are getting our peaches and our cherries and our tomatoes and all of those first fruits that we're getting. And so that's when we would have honored them. So this is the honoring the fruits of our labors, honoring those first breads. And the Anglo-Saxon, this is a holiday that carried over into the Christian church as loaf mass. And it's Saint this day and Saint that day, whatever. There's a lot of different saints that are honored at this time. But again, this is just one of those things because we're honoring this transition of energy and we're honoring this harvest and the fruits that we're receiving from the earth. If we go over to Scotland, they also made a cake. It's called a Lughnasadh, and it's made with bilberries, and it was given for love. So you would make a bilberry loaf, and then you would give it to the person that you loved, and hopefully that they would receive it, and then they would bring you love back, and you guys would break that bread, and it would be a sign of your love and your commitment, and you're like, oh, I want to date you, I guess is kind of how that would be. It's like, you're the one I want to date, and then you would go from there. This is also a time, so another tradition in Scotland is they would build big peat towers in front of your house. You would collect all of the peat that you had, peat moss, whatever. It's very abundant there. But anyway, so they would gather it and they would build their tall mounds in front of their houses, and then you would run and try to knock over your neighbors. There's a lot of traditions like this in Scotland. You would build something and then somebody would have kind of come to mess it up. There would be a lot of pranking. It was just, that was one of the ways that our Scottish ancestors came together and celebrated, is a lot of pranking and kind of jousting at each other. But it was all done in good nature and good fun. And kind of like when they stole the Yule bush. It's just one of those things. Let's see. People would defend their towers, and it was a big town game. And sometimes it would be taken too far, but most of the time it was just a big game, and there would be prizes at the end of it, and everybody would be like, hurrah! And you would win the Pete Tower Championship. I wish that we still did fun things like this. It would never go over in America. Somebody would get their feelings hurt. It would go too far. Let's see. So then if we go over to Norse, so we're kind of in a weird circle. I don't know why it goes from whatever. Anyways, in Norse mythology, this is connected to Freyr, the god of fertility and agriculture. He is honored at Freyr-fax, or the feast, with a feast of horses. Freyr-faxi means the feast of Freyr. There would have been fighting and games and horseback riding and different competitions, and we would have really honored that fertility and agriculture and the harvest in that way. The Sumerian god Tumaz was honored at this time. He is the grain god. He and Ishtar are honored together, and they were responsible for providing a plentiful harvest. At this time, he is celebrated because his impending death is coming. And so Ishtar too is going to begin her grieving process, but this is that symbol of he is sacrificed so that the grains can come to full fruit, and then we harvest the grains, and the goddess is left barren in the field, bare and alone and sad, but knows that in her belly new life grows, and that's what keeps her strong. And she knows that soon that love will be reborn, and that again the cycle will start again. So just like with Isis or many of the other resurrection myths, as Tammuz goes into the underworld, Ishtar leaves this earth barren after the fruits, and that's what winter is. And so it's part of that cycle. In Slavic tradition, this is when the goddess Poludnica is honored. She is seen throughout the summer as hot air that dances with the fire and brings the warmth to the earth. Soon her energy will begin to decline, so we are honoring her now and thanking her for not destroying our fields. That's the other thing of this, is that those fire gods and stuff that we honor, right now we're saying, we love you, but please don't burn down our fields. We love you, but please take it easy. We love you, but please find your partner so you can cool down and bring us some cooler air and not kill our crops. Maybe a little rain. But you see that theme again and again, because it's 100 degrees outside. It's hot, it's dry. We want the rain. We want the cool breeze. We want that nicer fall time. So we honor that energy, and we're like, hey, if we're nice to you, sun god, maybe you'll take it easy on us. In ancient Rome, this is when the goddess Salus was honored. She's primarily another agricultural goddess. And you see her holding like wheat or grain, so she's one of those grain goddesses, and also a snake. And her festival is on August 3rd. And this is when we would thank her for her bounty. One of her symbols is a narrow bowl that is called a patera. And so this patera you would have filled, and then it would have actually been a really good omen if you saw a snake come out of your patera, because that meant the goddess was taking your offering. I know most people just shivered a little bit, like, oh my god, if a snake came out of my offerings, I'd probably break out. I would love that, but other people might not be so okay with that. I was watching one of my yoga videos, and she had a spider coming towards her, and she was trying to do her breathing, and she's like, don't mind me. there's a spider coming towards me. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. But we were like in some crazy pose. It was funny. Anyways, same thing with the snake. If the snake comes out of your offerings, this is the goddess saying, I am here, I am present, and I am thankful for your offerings. In Greek mythology, this is when we celebrated Adonis. He's another one of the dying gods. And so he dies with the vegetation as it dies in summertime. And then he is reborn. So his whole story is kind of fun because Adonis was said to be born of a myrrh tree, and which was once the princess Smyrna. And when Smyrna was sacrificed, she was grown into this tree, and then out of this tree was birthed Adonis. And the goddess Aphrodite saw this newborn baby and was instantly infatuated with him and refused to give him back and was like, I love this baby. I'm going to love this baby forever. He's my baby. He's the most beautiful baby in the world, and we're going to make the world full of love. A little whatever weird, I don't know with the baby. But anyways, she then was like, hey, I need a babysitter. So she goes to Persephone. She says, hey, Persephone, will you watch my baby? Well, Persephone also falls in love with this baby and says, oh my God, I love this baby and I want Adonis to be mine. Everybody loves Adonis. Adonis. It's the magic man. Anyway. And so they end up having a fight over the baby. And they're like, we both want this baby and we want him. And so Zeus steps down and he says, fine. Adonis will spend 1/3 of the year with Aphrodite, 1/3 of the year with Persephone, and 1/3 of the year he will get to be wherever he wants to be because he deserves a little bit of free choice. I mean, when he was a baby, they decided this for him. So this is when so in the springtime, he gets to be with Aphrodite. In the summertime, he walks the earth and he brings abundance everywhere he goes and spreading that beauty and that love and that just abundant energy. And then at this time, he begins to decline, and then he goes to spend the time with Persephone in the underworld. And so he has this very unique third cycle. And then he'll be resurrected again to come back and be with Aphrodite in the spring. And so this is when he is declining. And so we honor him. We say, thank you for choosing, because that's the thing. So Adonis chooses to walk the earth for the summertime to bring us our fruitful harvest. And so we thank him for making that choice, because he could say, I'm going to stay with Persephone, or I'm going to go somewhere else, or whatever, and not bring that bounty to the earth. And so we give him thanks and we say, thank you for choosing to walk the earth and spread that energy. Then if we go over to medieval Welsh, this would have been the Feast of August, celebrating the harvest with eating and drinking. It is closely celebrated with Lughnasadh, but in Welsh mythology, it kind of transitioned, and it was kept again by the Christian church. So a lot of the older traditions were kind of washed away, or Christian washed, whitewashed, however you want to say that. I mean, they were all white, so it's not really, it was one white culture whitewashing another culture. It's sad how many cultures this has happened to over the years, and we don't even realize it. There are entire cultures that are just gone. You don't even know anything about them. They just disappeared into time because somebody else washed over them and took their culture. But again, so this is that modern, they call it Gwyn Aist, which is the Feast of August. And then let's get to Lughnasadh. So Lughnasadh, spelled Lughnasadh, Celtic. The letters don't all say what they want. So like that L-U-G-H, the U-G-H says ooh. N-A-S says knee. It's just one of those different languages. It's okay though. So it's Lughnasadh. And this is the Feast of Lugh. So Lugh is the Celtic god who has many talents, and he's honored at this time. Originally, he started this festival to honor his stepmom, his surrogate mom, Tailtui? I don't know. I can't. It's Gaelic. Anyways. And so it is said that she cleared all of the areas. So when the world was covered in wild forestry and wild beasts and all that wildness that humans couldn't live in. She is the one who came and cleared away that wild past in order for humans and people and modern people to come and thrive and be able to have their farms and be in one place and stop being migrating societies. So she is the goddess that said, no longer do you have to roam the earth. I will clear this space, which was Ireland and Scotland, and make it ready for you to live so that you may just stay here. And so after she was done clearing the area for the people, she was so exhausted that she died. And then Lugh, in love for his mother, it's not his real mom, it's his surrogate mom, because Lugh's real mom is the Tuatha, or the Danu with the Tuatha De Danann, but we don't talk about her. She's been... It's another story. Anyways, so... as she dies and her energy is then given to the earth so that it may bring forward the harvest, Lugh was really sad and he wanted to honor his mother. So he took all of the skills that he had. He was a very skillful person, and he took all of his skills and he said, let's share this and let's honor this and let's have games. Another part of this myth is that when it came time for Lugh to join the other gods, they said, we already have a craftsman and we already have a rider and we already have a horse god and we already have a grain god and we already have all of these gods. Like, why are you so special and why do you deserve to join us in this realm? And Lugh was like, oh, there's not one thing I'm really good at, but you know what I am? I'm good at many things. I am the jack. He's the original jack of all trades. And he came and he says, I can do all of these things. And I can bring all of these things to you and to the people. And that is why we honor him. And so one of the traditions at this time is all of the things that you're good at, you bring forward. You bring them to market. You bring them to the people. Markets and bazaars and those kind of things were really popular at this time because everybody had all of their crafts and all of their harvest and all of the things that they've been working on, all of that stuff that they've manifested. They're bringing it to volition and they're sharing it with the community. And at that same time, we honor this God who has done that, and he brings all of these different talents to the people, and he brought music and art and literature and war and games and horseback riding, all of the different things. He can do them all, and he shares them all with the people. And so we honor that by sharing our own skills with other people. The Hall of Terra. The reason I know all about this myth, I forgot. That's my name. Anyways. So, I just scratched myself. Anyways. So this is also a time when we visited holy wells. Again, the sun is so hot and it's just beating down on us. So we go to these holy well places. We call to the water gods and goddesses. We call to these, cooler energies, and we say, can you please come help to bring balance? And we honor both of you so that way we may have that harmony that we need in this world. You would make offerings to the first harvest by burning a crop clipping on the mountaintops, or a bull would be sacrificed. There would be dancing and shows and all of that kind of stuff. And there are many different festivals that have continued on, just like local festivals. If you look all around the world, you'll see little local festivals that have been carried on since before modern times in Christianity and all of these things, no matter what they're called now. Like the Renaissance Festival that we have here. There are festivals like that all over, and each one of those has its own roots and its own history and those ancestors. But this was that time, and so we celebrated all of these things that we have. This is also a time, so we make those offerings of the bread with the fruit bread or whatever. You take that fruit cake to the person you love and you make that offering to them. You say, hey, I really like you. Eat my fruit cake. Let's be friends. Let's be more than friends. And you kind of run a test trial. So you would have had hands fastings, year-to-day hands fastings, or temporary relationships, or it would have been a time, okay, we're going to live together for the next couple months. We're going to see how this goes. If we can make it through one winter, we'll get married next July or June. And then we'll be official. Let's test it out. And so this is when that you would kind of pick that. You kind of pair up. Maybe I'll spend winter with you and see how it goes. And so you would make those offerings and you would make those favors and have those conversations or whatever. In my brain, I just see like the flirty young maidens, like, here's my fruit bread. It's kind of like sending the sexy emoji, except for it used to be fruit bread. Just makes me think of the fruitcake that people make at Christmas time and then they give out. They're like, ah, it wasn't like that. Maybe it was. Maybe you liked it better. Who knows? It's just funny to me. Let's see. And then, so let's go to the southern hemisphere and flash forward to February and pretend like it's right now, because that's when they're celebrating the harvest. And so for the Inca in February, when they celebrate their harvest, this is the month of Hatun Pukai, when the first potatoes were harvested. If you're not familiar, potatoes actually started in Peru and with the Inca and way down there, and they were much different than the ones we have now, to the point where actually a lot of them are poisonous. And then they would take those potatoes that they harvested and they would take them up to the top of the mountains where, because it gets so cold, it like flash freezes at night because the elevation is so high. It would actually flash freeze, ancient way of flash freezing those potatoes and kind of dehydrating them and breaking down the poisons, and then they would go back and get them and they would be like different, and then they will cook them, and so they're prepared different. If you go to Peru, you can still have potatoes like this. You can also find these ancient potatoes in like Lake Titicaca and other lakes around the area because they would have made them as offerings. And so you can go down into the deeps of the water where these ancient potatoes have been, because they were dehydrated on top of the mountains, and then they were thrown into the rivers and the lakes. They are preserved that way, and so you can see that. And so this is when they would have been doing that, and they would have made those offerings. And they would hold big ceremonies and make these potato offerings in order to make sure that the rest of their crops came through good. So potatoes are honored at this time. Even here in America, or in here, after potatoes were brought all around the world, many cultures survived off of potatoes and potato breeds. In Africa, you have the sweet potato harvest. It comes a little closer to the equinox, but I know, just kind of depending on where you are, we have that harvest. And so it's just all of these things are harvesting, and that's what so many of our ancestors celebrated. So a lot of the symbols that you see are baskets of grain, baskets of bread, braided bread, baskets of grapes, fruits, other kind of things, anything that you are harvesting. And sunflowers. Sunflowers are a big symbol of this time because the sunflower is a representation. I feel like the sun is now getting me. You see it rising. And so we can harvest sunflowers at this time, and they are that representation of the sun's energy on earth. And so we, again, are harvesting and honoring and all of that stuff. So, modern-wise and tradition ways, we make our wicker man, and we honor the harvest, and we honor the things that we've manifested, and we take stock in those things, and celebrate, and we come together and have that first Thanksgiving, have those first fruit pies, share the fruits of your labors with the people around you. So, what skills do you have? I don't know if you can see me anymore. Oh, there we go. What skills do you have that you're sharing with the community? What do you offer to the world around you? What gods are you honoring at this time because of what they've given you? Where are you showing your gratitude? So I challenge everybody to stop and take a moment, make a journal entry, and think about that. What is it that you offer to the community? What do you get back from the community? How are you working with the people around you? What do you have to be grateful for? And what do you want more of in your life? And all of those kind of things. So, as always, If you have any questions, don't forget to ask in the comments below, and like and subscribe and share and all of that great stuff. Make sure you check out the other early harvest videos. Finally, if you have herbs in your garden and you didn't collect them on the full moon, this upcoming harvest, this Lammas, is going to be the great time for all of those herbs. Go back out into your garden and cut your herbs back at least down to 1/3. So it means you're taking 2/3 of your plant off. So your lemon balm, your marjoram, your thyme, your oregano, basil, tarragon. Make sure you deadhead those lavender flowers. All of those, your sage. Go out and pick your sages. Do all of those different things, and it's time to harvest that. Make sure you're leaving an offering. Make sure you're leaving 1/3 of a plant behind at least. Now, I say that because these are in my garden and I grow them. If I was wild harvesting, I would only take 1/3 and I would leave 2/3. And, if you come across something and you've never seen it before, don't harvest it. Let it be. Chances are it's the only one. Every once in a while, I'll get to see a fairy slipper, which is an orchid native to Colorado. They're beautiful. They're tiny. I would never pick one because that fairy slipper it's there and it deserves to be there, and I should not take that home just for me. If everybody went and took a fairy slipper, there would be no fairy slippers left. Just like when everybody went and tried to take a buffalo, we almost had no more buffalo. Same kind of thing. It's not like that. You need to leave something. Some things you just go to look at. So when we're harvesting, keep that in mind. Harvest ethically. Your ancestors our ancient ancestors back before colonization would not have taken entire fields. They would have just taken what they could. I just watched a video from Freya. She's a Norse witch, and she was talking about these flowers that the Nordics would use. I can't remember what they're called now. It just left my brain. But they make these tiny little dainty flowers, and it takes like 5 years for them to grow this big. So when they harvested it, it was like this great sacred thing. And so you have to keep that in mind. Sometimes when we think about, like harvesting mistletoe, that would have been like a great thing. Like they would have found one mistletoe thing or two mistletoe. When they found it, it would have been honored. Like, oh. So you need to feel that reverence with the plants that you have now when you're taking those harvests, and just show that gratitude, and make sure you're not taking too much, and make sure you're leaving some for the future generations. Now that we have had thousands of years of history to see what happens when we don't do that and we don't live in that harmony, and how many things we're missing because we didn't have that in the past. Now is the time to really honor that and know, like, we know better, so do better. So, I hope everybody has a blessed harvest, early harvest. I hope that you get to see the fruits of your labor and really show gratitude. I'm thankful that you are all here. I just wanted to take a moment with that feeling of gratitude. It's a beautiful feeling. So thank you so much for being here. Show gratitude for something today. And many blessings and much love. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.